What's up, everyone? It's me, Tim, with Gutter Growth. I'm here introducing Kipp Koeppel and Grant. Did I say it right? Say it for me.
Kipp Koeppel.
Kipp Koeppel. There we go.
Koeppel.
Good deal.
Kipp.
So Kipp has a Gutter Brothers location in Texas, and Grant runs it for him. So Kipp, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself and a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, sure. So
where you are.
First off, thanks for having me, Tim. Appreciate the time. And yeah, so a little bit about me, my background. My wife and I when I met her, obviously, I want to say first and foremost, your partner in life really helps determine your success. So I met my wife back in the early 2000s, and we both had similar spirits as far as business is concerned. We met working in the newspaper industry. So my dad was in the newspaper industry growing up. He ran different newspapers throughout the country. So we moved around a lot, but I got to see my dad do a lot of work running businesses, getting them up and running, making sure that we moved around for him to improve each place. And then once it was up and running where it needed to be, we would move on to the next city or paper and opportunities. So after school, I thought I was going down the newspaper path. I did that. And then again, if you remember the early 2000s, that was the beginning of the end for the newspaper industry.
Oh yeah.
But it was where, and we met at the newspaper in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And, after that, we moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina. And so seeing the writing on the wall, I realized I needed to get out of the newspaper industry. And in Charlotte, there's a big, financial services hub there. So I got into financial services at the time. And that was my corporate career. So I was, working from call centers, worked my way up to leadership in different areas of financial services, retirement record keeping, anti-money laundering, different things like that. Really exciting stuff. So, when somebody asks you what you do and you have that fun story to tell at a party, you're the hit, right?
Yeah.
Not really. So on the whole time, so for me, entrepreneurially, we tried several things, always had aspirations to own our own business, different things like that. But one of the things we hit on pretty early was rental properties. So we started, a friend of ours convinced us to start investing in some rental properties in around 2010 in Charlotte. And so at that time, we started, me and the partner and my wife did a lot of the work ourselves. So we were painting, tiling, doing drywall. We did some re-roofs, which we did that one time. But learned a lot along the way as far as how to value a property, how to get it to cash flow, how to find your renters, work with management companies, different things like that. But we also once we got to the point where we weren't doing all the work ourselves, we started hiring contractors, and that's when we had our first experience with there seems to be a lack of not opportunity, but solid contractors out there that can answer the phone, provide the service that they say they will, finish the job, and then be able to answer the phone again if there's anything that goes wrong. So we saw that as an opportunity in the market that really was missing, and it didn't matter what trade it was. It just seemed like either they were too busy or they didn't care. So that was part of things that kind of led us into where we are today. And then in 2020, my wife had an opportunity in Austin, Texas to work for a venture-backed wine company. So it was a startup company. I was still working for the bank. We still had the rental properties, but we always, again, we've tried a lot of different things. Again, the rental properties work best, but this seemed like another opportunity to really get in and learn business operations from the inside out. And so we moved out here in 2020 in Austin. And at that point, I worked for corporate America for a little bit longer, but eventually joined that startup and really was trying to help them with shipping logistics. So it was a very different move for me, but it gave me an opportunity to learn and grow and get out of the corporate environment that was really just a means to an end. So we did that. We got into the wine startup. I learned an awful lot about it, and also learned that it was an industry in an area where I wasn't best suited for me, as far as, I was in a position that was a little bit beyond my scope. So trying to figure out everything on the fly, and then try to make sure that we got everything working and served and sent and all those, just, can we satisfy customers with what we were doing? And so again, learned a lot, had it running. But during that time, a franchise consultant reached out to me on LinkedIn, and it was perfect timing because I was at that point, I was like, I want to have something of my own. So franchise consultant reaches out, we go through that process. And, as part of that, there's an interview process to try to figure out what your interests are, where you want to be, what kind of concepts make sense for you, what your skill set works for. And so we were very clear, Brooke and I, we wanted to have a home contracting or home services business. And, so as part of that process, the consultant brought us different concepts. We had a painting concept, an insulation concept, and then the brothers that just do gutters. And first pass, I wasn't real sure about the gutter business, to be quite frank with you. I don't have a background in that. I don't know much about it. And so initially we're like, all right, let's look at these other options, but let's go down the path. So we did the due diligence with those 3 different concepts. But very quickly saw that the brothers that just do gutters was a very different from the other ones, from the perspective of it wasn't just a business in a box, at least the way we saw it. It was more of a, and I've said it in different places, but the gutter installing of gutters that's what they actually do. But what they are, and what we saw was, it's a leadership and career development company. That was what was really different about them. As part of the concept, they provide a career path for people. You can come in with 0 experience, work your way up our ladder, and eventually have a career that's prosperous. It doesn't require a college degree, just requires good work ethic and a positive attitude. And that's what we were sold on, was that if you could follow the concept there, you could eventually have success in the industry, because you got, the franchise gives you the opportunity to go into an industry that potentially, you don't have the technical skill set for, but maybe you have the business acumen and, the understanding of how things work. And once you put the pieces in the right places, then you can have some success. So that's really, again, when I say, my path to entrepreneurship, we've tried a lot of different things. Some things have worked and some things haven't. But, we've been very fortunate in the last 2 years. So this has been 2 years in the business, as of this summer. And we've had, as Grant likes to say, a great trajectory.
How did you run into Grant?
Well, so Grant, he's been a part of the brand for several years. And he's obviously very well known in the industry, but he was also very well known within the brand. Okay. And, so he was a next door neighbor, basically, in San Antonio when I started. And, when I started, I'll be honest, I didn't really know a whole lot about what I was doing. They tell you that, it's very strongly encouraged that you get somebody with experience on your team, so that you're not just out there throwing up gutter without, a whole lot of experience. And they do, part of the process is going through training. So there are several franchises that have gone through it with completely green or rookie installers that have never touched a gutter before. And that was my story. I found it difficult initially to find anybody with experience. So at the time, I don't really have a business. Trying to hire, because initially the model was hire hourly. So you're trying to find experienced guys and pay them hourly, and the market here doesn't pay that way. So if I throw
mostly piecework guys in that area.
Yeah. So you got per foot, you got percentage. I didn't know anything about those things when I was starting, and so I'm trying to hire hourly, and throwing up a posting on Indeed is not really, maybe you can find some gutter guys there, but most of them aren't looking at Indeed, right?
No.
So anyway, that's so I started that process, and we got off the ground. We learned a lot, basically learning on the job after training, because nothing can get nothing can put you in a better spot than experience, and we didn't have that, so we learned a lot, spent a lot of money repairing and replacing things and doing things more than once. Because we do, I will say, regardless of what we put up, we honor our word. We have the warranties. We make sure everything's going to be right. So we went through that process. So how did I meet Grant? As part of that process, there's a national conferences that are had every year, and I met Grant at one of the conferences. Briefly talked to him, and he was also, we have peer group meetings, and he was very vocal on the peer group meetings about how the operations should work, and he was very good at suggestions for all the other franchisees. As you know, he's very giving of his knowledge.
Yes.
So, he was sharing information that, really helped me. So back to the postings, that's where I learned about the gutter installers Facebook groups and the different things like that with, understanding how to really connect with the industry and not just be the outsider that's a, non-gutter guy joining a business or starting a business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, try to get ingrained in it, understand how the guys talk to each other, what that looks like. So Grant was instrumental in kind of, from afar, leading me down the path of getting a lot more plugged into the industry. And so I think Grant and I had a conversation. It's been a little over a year ago. And, we just talked about what my vision was for my company and what his vision was for what he wanted to do. And we really connected. I talked about understanding that there's only so far that I can take this without a true industry vet, because my plans are really big for this. We're not just trying to go have, a company that it's a small company, we're doing fine, whatever. We want to dominate the market. And for me to do that, I had to get somebody like Grant on board. And he was very interested and willing to do that. And so again, we talked a lot about vision, a lot about where we wanted to go with the company, what was possible. So I had success before he got there, but again, it was through a lot of just sure will.
How long were you going before you met him?
Yeah, so it was a little over a year. So I was in operations for right at a year when he came on board. And even before he got on board, and I will attribute most of the success to the market. So we're in one of the best markets you can be in the country for pretty much anything. Now, there are challenges with Austin as far as the weather and the heat, but just as far as people moving here, people needing things, people having money in the market. So I think that attributed a lot of my success, and it also is part of the reason why I think Grant saw the value in what we potentially could do beyond that. So I think he's looking at it from his perspective of, well, if he doesn't know what he's doing and he can do that, then just wait till I get there,
Wait till I get older.
So, but no, I think Grant can share a little bit more about that conversation, but we really did connect. We met and talked more. And again, we spent a lot of time talking about, what is the vision? What is it that we really want to accomplish? And I say we now, because at the time I was like, I'm looking for a partner. I'm looking for somebody that can come in who can, as the business grows, you're going to grow with it. You're going to, be just as much a part of the success as I will be, and then have a driver like that. So Grant was very instrumental in doing that, coming on last October, right, Grant?
Yeah, I think it was October 10th or something.
Yeah, so it sounds like you guys really aligned on values.
Absolutely. More than anything, it's not about money, obviously we all want to make money, but when you work with somebody and find a partner that you can do things with, if it's about money, that's not going to work very long. So, Grant and I really connected on, again, the values of, who we are, what we want to do, how do we treat employees? How do I allow an operator to come in and run the business without too much meddling, if you will?
Yeah. I know all about that.
Yeah. So, talk about framework. So that was the other thing, I think, kind of getting more into where we are now is, all right, so we've got the vision, we know our goals, we know what we want to do. All right, so how do we all work together? So my wife was involved in the business, Grant there, me there, and then we had an office manager at the time. And it's like, okay, so now we have to define roles. So who's doing what? it's a small business, so sometimes, you know, the lines are blurred, but
Sure.
getting our processes down, you know, if this happens, you know, what is our expectation? And one thing I also really appreciate about Grant is um, getting to the point where we know each other well enough to where he knows what I would want to do, what decision I would make given a circumstance. So, you know, that takes time to learn. And I think Grant says, I want to know your heart, right?
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong, you know, what would you do in this situation so that, you know, I don't have to ask you every time. I've learned what you expect and what you want out of it. And so I feel like we're there.
Try to
So
make decisions from your perspective.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, it's really good. I mean, I think the collaboration with us, you know, obviously Grant coming in really changed the game for us in our ability to do things beyond just your basic 5 and 6K, right?
What does
So
that change look like since you came on board? Like what's taken place and with the business?
yeah, so at the time he came on board, we were just 5 and 6K company. That was it. Anything, you know, you're talking about downhills, you're talking about radiuses, we kind of backed away from because we didn't want to put something up that we didn't feel good about. With Grant coming on board, that's completely changed. So you got 5 and 6 inch. He can teach anybody how to do that very quickly. With the downhills, the radiuses, the, you know, how do you deal with situations where the house is sloped the wrong way, the house is settled, they want to downspout one way, it doesn't really flow that way. We'll just, you know, here's, well, did you know you cut the back of the gutter out? You can do different things, right? So experience that, you know, we're not just going to get on our own. So he brought that. So that was the initial change, is to be able to put us in a place where, you know, we can handle pretty much any situation on the basic level. And then beyond that, you know, we really got into, all right, so we don't want to be just a basic 5-6K company. That's when we started talking about what machine do we want to get into? Where do we go? He was very, very adamant about we need a 7-inch machine. And I, you know, at the time I was like, I don't know, you know, I don't know if the market's here for it. And he's like, we'll make the market. And I said, okay. So we went ahead, got the 6-7 combo. And then for me, I'd always, you know, I don't know that it was a great business decision, but I just felt like if you've got a half round machine, then you're a completely different company.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's 100 companies here that can do 5 and 6-inch K style, but there's maybe 10 at most that can do half round. So
Makes it a lot less competitive.
yeah. So it put us, you know, onto the next step. So we you know, started with machines. So the 6-7, you got the half round, and then shortly thereafter we got the Euro box, the 6-inch Euro box. And again, that turned us into what Grant took us from basic to full service. We can do whatever you need. Grant also brought in his knowledge with using a brake, so we can make custom commercial gutters. We can do different things like that. So we don't, you know, there was no more, we got this lead, we got to turn it down or pass it on to somebody else because we just don't feel comfortable doing it. To we can do anything anybody wants, custom anything, and we're going to do it better than most people. So the Grant's the one that brought that to us. So
how's that affected the bottom line?
well, so, you know, on the custom stuff, the margins are better, right? And there's not as much competition there. So, you know, the bottom line, you know, top end revenue, we're, you know, we're going to do at least 50% more revenue this year than we did last year, which is crazy. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so that, you know, top end revenue is there. And, you know, it really helps because, you know, you're not competing on price anymore. You know, even on the 5 and 6-inch. So you've established yourself as a complete and company from a gutter perspective. You can do anything. Then that, you know, the custom stuff bleeds down into the 5 and 6K. So you're not, you know, if somebody says, well, I'm not paying your price, you're like, okay, then you're not the customer for us.
Right.
You know, we're not going to get into the back and forth. And if you want the cheapest, we're not going to be there. And we can feel good about saying that now.
You're a better company.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way about the custom profiles, and you know, I did the same route, and it's a completely different ball game when you don't have all that competition and you got better margins. And I feel like the homeowners take you more seriously too when they know that you can do anything. There's really no situation gutter wise that you're not going to be able to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
And
Tim, real quick, tell us in what order did you buy your machines?
So I started off the first machine. Well, I had the 6 and 7 inch. We didn't really have any 5 inch down here, so 7 inch was pretty common. But when I did get into the 7 inch initially, it wasn't. There was maybe only 10 of them in the area. Maybe now there's like 50 of them.
Right.
So everybody has them. But when I initially got into it, it wasn't as competitive. So I started off there, and then the next step I got was the 6 inch Eurobox.
Mhm.
And there was only one company in the area that had it, but they didn't really know how to market it, so no one knew about it. So I brought it on, started putting it out in the market. Then all of a sudden, like they kind, my company was watched. People kind of watched what I was doing, and now there's like 10 of them in the area.
Right.
But what was good about it is the margin stayed up. No one really got too cheap on it, and especially with the box downspouts, you can't get too low. So it
Mhm.
stayed pretty high margin, and the other companies getting it kind of helped me out because now more people in the public knew about it, because before it's like no one even knew that there was this gutter.
Right.
Now it's getting to, we're talking about 5 years later, 6 years later. Now most people know that there's this product out there. So it's being searched more.
Yeah.
So I started off there, and then I got the box gutter with the lip, just a regular 6 inch box gutter. I didn't sell a whole lot of that. I ended up selling that one to David Lovett. And then I went into a 6 inch half round. I ended up getting an 8 inch half round. There was only 5 of them in the country. Got my hands a hold of it. We had a bidding war. Actually, he already committed to someone, and I said, I'll give you $5,000 more. So I ended up snagging it. And I also got a 7 inch D style slanted box commercial. So towards the end of the company, I was doing I tried to stay away from K style. It's not like I didn't do K style, but I wasn't running 4 crews doing K style, maybe like 1 or 2. And I tried to do the rest custom, and I just kind of stayed in the higher margins.
Awesome.
So
yeah, Grant,
Yeah.
I don't know if
That's
the
line
market.
up. Obviously, been talking about that. A couple of your machines for years.
Yeah.
looks
But
like there's going to be access to 8 inch half round though soon, next couple months.
Yeah, we'll see. I've been talking with them a little bit. The prices, they get to charge what they get to charge. It'll be fun to see how that rolls out and how many of them get bought and then get put back on the market. So that's when we'll be looking for that probably.
Oh yeah. Little markups.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think they're going to be 75,000. I was
Yeah, that's
talking
what it's looking like.
to Dan the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I bought mine for 50.
Right. See, it's a better deal right there.
Yeah, is
But
that one available anywhere? Is that
No, there was
all
6 of
gone?
them made. One of them was in Hawaii. One of them Dan had, but that one got stolen. No one really knows where that's at. That could be in another country by now, because the trailer that got stolen, they knew it ended up in Miami. Could have got shipped on a port. So that there's only 4 left here. I believe all 4 of them are in Florida. I know at least 3, no, 4 of them. Yeah, they're all in Florida. And the company I sold to owns 2 of them.
yeah.
So yeah, getting a hold of them now is like impossible. So I was kind of glad to see someone's going to make them again, even if the price is high. At least it's going to continue being a
No, I
seamless
think that's
product.
fun. Yep. That's good.
Yeah.
It's good for the industry. Might not be good for the people that own them currently, but it'll be good. Right? Let's get the gutters bigger, more functional.
But at least there's going to be a barrier. I don't think anyone's just going to drop 75,000. You still got to put it in a truck. You're looking at 100,000 minimum just to get one going.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still a pretty good barrier. I don't think it's going to be like they pop up on every corner. So Kipp, what's some other milestones that you've had along the way getting the gutter business rolling, or even just entrepreneurship in general?
Yeah, well, so milestones, they can be good and bad, right? So what is it that you're willing to put up with to be able to get to the next step, right? So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I would say is a milestone. Starting the franchise, our goals were initially just get to the point where we're functional beyond, to where I can sleep at night feeling good about my warranties. That took a little time. So in the first 2 or 3 months, it's just like, all right, well, I'm going to go back and fix that at some point. we're going to honor that, but it's a stressful point. So we did finally get to the point where we hired some people with experience. And, as you know, the people that have experience aren't necessarily into doing it specifically the way you want it done. They do it the way they know how to do it, which is good. But, saying that, it got us beyond just being able to say, all right, we put up the gutter, it is functional, that's it. It's, you go to the next step, which is it actually looks right, and I don't mean looks right, but the pitch isn't super crazy, you don't have anything like that. So you get to the point where you got that going. So that was the first milestone. It really kind of put us into another level. And then, when you do in your first calendar year, you do 7 figures, and before Grant showed up, so that was huge. Like, okay, well then this is a thing. This really is something that we can see success in. Obviously, me personally, I got to work on controlling costs better, but the revenue is there to make the money to make this business super functional. To go from 4 employees to 15 employees, that's a huge step. So we got quite the payroll now. As you know, we're the W2 model. So you get to the revenue amount, you get to the point where you actually have a shop, right? So that's a milestone. You're not just working out of a storage room.
Yeah, we all start there.
So you're not just doing that anymore. And then you've got somebody who works in the shop, and then you've got a shop truck. You got these things where you're actually building the business to scale the way that you thought you could, but when it actually starts happening, those are the milestones that are successful, because along the way, you take your lumps. Not everything's perfect. This was not a straight up path. I mean, I know it's very quick, but we had all kinds of things happen, and those are the things that I really look at. Looking back now, 2 years, understanding that you go in with wide eyes, and this is going to be amazing, and it's we're just going to execute the plan, and it's going to work.
You get punched in the face.
Yeah, and then hey, boom, your first month installing catalytic converters are stolen out of your trucks. Like, so there's that. And then you've got, I mean, any number of things that happen to where you got guys that are walking off job just because they don't want to do it, and you've got a situation where again, early on, the guys that do have experience, they know more than I do about the gutter industry. They know us just specifically installing. Like, I've been trained, I understand the basics, but like me up on a 40-foot ladders, that's not safe for anyone.
Yeah, no doubt. Guys like Grant.
Yeah. He's got his legs wrapped around it in all kinds of ways I didn't even know you could do. But no, so understanding that the milestones help you see past the things that are the setbacks, or the things that kind of make you really think more about, all right, is this what I really want to be doing? Because again, the model works, there's opportunities there, but you really have to find the right people to do that. As far as the right people, the right seats on the bus, there's Good to Great. I'm sure you've read that book, but that's what's happened, since then. Is we spent a lot of money on machines, we spent a lot of money on training, we spent a lot of money on warranty work, and now we get to actually see the benefits of what that is. Our reputation is very important to us. It drives our business. Our Google reviews are extremely important to the future revenues that we're going to get, and all of that came even when things weren't great. We were getting the great reviews, and and a lot of the reviews we were getting was because we actually went back and fixed the things that we didn't get right the first time. So you take the good with the bad on that, but at the end of the day, we feel like we've done the right thing by the customer. They feel great about us. So customer service, that's something I did know, and that's something that we've really harped on. My wife is very involved in the customer communications, things like that. So milestones, I think I believe we're right at 300 5-star Google reviews between the different sites, or very close to it. So that's a huge milestone.
That's amazing for 2 years.
Probably more than that, I think maybe just a little bit with the 3 locations. And then if we look at, any Facebook, Yelp, just all the stuff we have, but somewhere around 300 is pretty fabulous.
Yeah.
That's
so,
good.
And every time we would hit 100, or, whatever the 100 was, we'd take the guys out and take the team out, and we'd go celebrate. So,
did you have systems in place to get those reviews, or how did that look? How did you get there so quick?
Well, so, as part of our process from beginning from the estimator to, our solutionist all the way through, we are dropping we're here for 5-star service. We keep putting that in their ear, the customer, as we keep doing it. So it starts with the solutionist and then goes into, the back office or the office manager and the communication. So scheduling, setup, all of the different things that come with that, talking about great customer service. And then, we put a lot on our lead installers. We don't expect them to just go there, put the gutters up and leave. So we really spend a lot of time with them on customer communication.
So you hold them to a high standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we've got a very defined checklist of things. Now, I'm not saying they fill out a checklist, but there's these bullet points of things that we have expectations of. When they arrive at the house, they are speaking with the customer, they're introducing their helper, their apprentice. They're very clear about what their intentions are. We're here to provide you with 5-star service. Let me show you what's going on. Here's the walk around. So again, the process along the way is to drop that on the customer multiple times, and then also deliver. Your product has to be worthy of the 5-star, and the rest, the service, the discussions, the talks, everything. Those are. Yeah, so it all plays into it, and then the system to actually get the review is, we have all the guys, we have the links to the reviews on our invoices. We have the links to the reviews everywhere, but the biggest.
That's smart on the invoice.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's on the invoice. It's on our emails. It's everywhere. But the most effective one is when the installer is going to collect payment. He's walking through, he's done his final walkthrough, he's talking to him, and he's sitting there explaining, well, while you get the payment or whatever, whatever that conversation looks like, how do you feel about the service? Do you feel like you've got 5-star service today? And if you get yes, and he'll say, well, you could really help us out with this. And, we do have QR codes that we can use, but really the most effective way is to say, all right, here's the link. I'm texting it to you. If you don't mind, just go ahead and doing that right now. I'm going to go look around, do one more walk around for any, tools or anything like that, and then come back to it. So that you kind of, it's not necessarily like you have to do this right now, but if you give somebody the opportunity, even the ones that say they will do it, it's not intentional, but sometimes they just don't get around to it.
They want to, they're busy. It's not that they don't want to, they just don't.
So if you can get them on the spot, and Grant's the one that kind of really showed the guys, the easy way to do it. It's like, well, here, let me pull it up for you on your phone, even not just texting it to them. Different things.
How do you get the guys on the same page where they're actually following through with this? I mean, because I know a lot of people they tell their guys, let's do this, and then they just never do. How do you get them? Have you been successful with that?
It goes in waves. So when you're whatever you're emphasizing in the moment, you see the results of that very quickly.
So it kind of goes down to the leadership.
Yeah, it does. And there are times like, all right, so we haven't gotten more than 1 or 2 recently. Let's put an incentive in place. So we'll put incentives together. We'll do different competitions among the trucks, different things like that. We gave a TV away last spring.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's not insignificant things. We don't do that every week, but once a quarter, we want to give a pretty decent incentive for them to do it, and not just cash bonuses. Those work too, but the tools and different, like here's a new drill, whatever that may be, and the guys love it.
It might be more thoughtful to them that you're just not throwing cash at them and you're giving them something that they could use.
Yeah. We keep a toolbox of like just a bunch of random tool style gifts, right? And so just could be any day of the week. I'll just put in the group chat like most reviews today, 3 to play, or most this week, or most additional work orders, or just whatever. And I'll just say, the team gets a prize. So we do that fairly often. And then to your point about the reviews and stuff like that, like we talk about it. We have a meeting every single week as an entire team that we do not miss or reschedule. So like he said, everything goes in waves, but we constantly follow those trends and bring whatever we need to work up, immediately, so we can try to flatten the wave as best as possible.
Seems like some of the best companies I've ran into are pretty adamant about the meeting once a week.
And that's, I would say, so starting the business, I have 2 installers and a salesperson, and it's like, it felt weird to have that meeting because it's like, all right, well, we're all talking to each other anyway. It's no big deal. But when you don't do that, even when you're small, it's not getting everybody on the same page. It's not getting everybody understanding, what the goals are, where we're going. If you don't do it, then you're just, like, was it hand to mouth? You're just, the next day is, we're just going to go out and do it. This is what it is. And, it's not, it doesn't have the same meaning unless you do have those meetings. Like, you're just going to do work.
That kind of runs into my next topic. We were going to talk about the power of collaboration.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Lord.
Yeah. So this is fun for me because back to Grant and I, from the introduction and to where we are now a year later, it's the collaboration. It fully is a partnership at this point. Grant came on board. He understood what my vision was, and he also said, well, here's what reality is. So, working together. So, I can put my vision out there, but if it's not something that can actually be done, then it doesn't mean anything. So, that's part of it. It's like, all right, so Grant, this is what I want. This is what I see. This is where I want to go. And he's like, all right, well, this is how we get there. So that's, kind of the initial phase of what that collaboration is. Here's the things, again, back to why do we have the machines we have? Well, Grant was instrumental in saying, well, you got to, these are things you got to do. If you really want to get to the place you want to be, you're going to have to spend money on this. You're going to have to invest in this, training. We're going to have to spend money on our employees. Like, let's go to the water park. Let's go do these other things. Let's really embrace this. And I will say, we did start that before Grant got here, but he really, really pushes it to make sure, like, and it's not just always company paid. It's like, all right, guys, let's go to dinner, or let's go to a comedy show, or different things like that. It doesn't always have to be something company paid. It's like, all right, how do we all get together to where, if people outside of work and you get to develop those relationships, then, when things are come up inside of work, you've got a different working relationship.
It makes you guys have each other's backs a lot more.
Yeah.
I bet. Yeah. Grant's pretty incredible at that, the company culture. And I feel like most of these companies are suffering when it comes to the culture.
So I'm just saying Grant is our culture champion. So so backing up into the franchise model, what I saw when I went to the Discovery Day, where you go and you see, the home office and how they operate. And I saw the culture there that I just, I wanted a piece of it. And one of the guys there said, this, just so we'll give you all the structure and all the different pieces for it, but the culture is ultimately going to be up to you and the leadership to get it right. And so, it all sounds good. And even with a playbook for it, culture can be difficult because when you're in startup mode, when you're trying to get a business off the ground, you're really like, let's just get it done. And, you don't want to lose sight of what the culture is, but at the same time, like you're really just scrambling to get things going. So, again, once the milestone came where we got to a revenue place, all right, now we can really start thinking about what do we want out of the culture? How do we get it there? And that was, again, around the time Grant came in and really brought it back home into, you don't have to just run around with your hair on fire. Mine's gone now, but it was a small fire.
I think mine's getting a little thin.
but so collaborating with him on the culture was huge because what Grant does, even outside the franchise. I mean, Grant is very giving of his time, his knowledge, and everything that surrounds anything he does. Like he's very compassionate, and I think it's easy to see that he gets joy in doing that. So him coming in and taking ownership. I mean, I'll just say, Grant walked into, we had a very difficult situation, and day one, he wasn't involved. He didn't have anything to do with it, but he went to that customer and took the bullet, right? He said, it's my fault. We don't, we're working on training. We're going to get this taken care of. He owned it. He didn't have to, but that established very early on the trust and the collaboration that we have, that, he's here. It's not just a job for him. He's going to come in here and make this thing work and take ownership of things. And even if it wasn't his, he's here. He's bought in. We're together. And so those are kind of some small snippets of our collaboration. But I think Grant, you might want to share a little bit about how we operate our 24/7 conversations.
Have the mic, Grant.
17 different messaging apps. Okay.
Yeah, I think the systems, right? Just to touch on the review thing a little bit too, like how do we get the guys engaged with dealing with the customer? I would say it's because they're already engaged in systems. And just briefly, obviously our CRM, some other accountability things that they may have to be fluent in, like if there's accidents on the job, right? Everything has a process or a system. And if it doesn't, it's something that we're working on in management to create a system for. But yeah, me and Kipp, exactly like you said, I mean, we just chatted about it, and sometimes things align and sometimes things don't. This aligned really well. And I'm at the point in my career where I'd like to just call one place home and just dig in a little bit. So I did that right away. And that's something I've been doing, in the industry, at least my whole life, is just being accountable for the team. Like the quarterback, they always blame for the loss, but it's a whole team. But a good quarterback's going to say, yeah, it's my fault. Right.
Right.
So just move on with it. But Kipp's vision was cool. He wanted to take care of his employees, and that's what matters to me most. Everybody will hear me every time I really talk about how you take care of your employees. On our last podcast with Frank, remember what I was talking about again was that retention being the biggest cost to your company, or having the opportunity to be the biggest negative cost to your company. And so I think everything just literally starts from that core. And Kipp's fabulous at that, and I just try to accent it with my leadership. And it's constant leadership. If you have a big picture of something like I do and like Kipp does, like you got to just talk with your guys all the time, and you got to be there for them. And most people know that, but it's about like training them how to do gutters, training them how to be better men, and then at the exact same time learning from them as well too, whether it's what not to do or what to do, and being a good listener to these guys, really making them feel important. Along with retention is that creating a career, not a job. I talk about that all the time. If you don't have those things figured out, like you can work on all the margins and the overhead and the bottom and top and all that, like you're constantly going to be losing money in retraining and retention, or you're not going to get to a point of leaders training leaders, which is my biggest philosophy. You've got to have, based off of your vision, right? Let's say me and Kipp want 15 trucks or 10 trucks. We've got to have a small initial vision for those first couple of years of who's going to help us run this thing. Because otherwise you're wearing way too many hats. And you get to that point, you're constantly firing management and supervisors and stuff. So you've got to build that core. That's what we're working on right now. And like, we're all in. And for the most part, it seems like all of our core is all in. That's based off of how Kipp allows me to treat, the people that work for us.
So it sounds like it's a lot easier to scale and grow people and not keep losing them and take one step forward, one step back. You could just kind of march forward when you got that right company culture.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to slow down so much. We, just like anybody else, have our ups and downs, right? Mm-hmm. But we stay consistent. I use a lot of coach, like sports analogies and stuff like that with the guys. Most of the younger guys are into football, basketball, hockey, something.
Right.
And so I just let them know, like, when some of these guys are showing up a little bit late to work, I'm like, well, what if you're showing up late to practice? You're not going to get to play, right? Why is this any different? Or, if your teammates don't like you because you're super arrogant, they might not pass to you or throw to you, whatever. Like, this all works the same. And as well, expressing the vision in that instance, like, we want to win championships, right? We're cool if we get to go to the playoffs, but we don't want to have a losing season. This is business. We can control it a little bit more than a sport. And so when it comes to the meetings, when it comes to the morning huddles, when it comes to getting these guys to understand the technology that we're trying to use and the direction we're trying to go in and make them, partners with us in this thing, it all comes back to like, well, teams have meetings. They don't just go out on the field or out on the court. They have team meetings, and that stuff to be champions takes almost 7 days a week. You get to work for 5, but let's not be scared to collaborate on the days of rest, Saturday and Sunday, which is exactly what we're doing right now, what Kipp's constantly doing. And, me and you've been talking almost every day for weeks now. So like, you've got to keep going, especially if you have something good. And we've got something great right now in the market, in the ownership, and in the team that we have. And then we have great associates like you, Frank, Dave, like you're dealing with Tony Cobb, like all these people. It's so cool to see like some big names coming together. And just so the industry knows, they're coming together to offer you guys some like knowledge that's going to really, really help you out.
One thing you just said, I don't know if the people in the audience caught that, but you said like a partnership. I've always looked at each crew member as like a partner to me. It wasn't just an employee. We have like a partnership. We're giving you a truck and nice equipment, and you have an opportunity. We're going to go to bat for you, so you make sure you have all the work you can. You can feed your family, and it's like a partnership, right?
100%. We just talked about this. And Kipp's the one. This is his company, and I work here, and I treat it like my baby. I think everybody knows that. I'm the biggest promoter of what we do in the gutter industry as well as in the brand. I mean, I push that all day, every day, but it's what he allows me to do and how he allows me to engage with the employees. And he just recently brought up like, hey, don't forget these people are our partners. And so I'm able to like get that joy, right? How much easier is my job when the boss isn't micromanaging? I have complete, freedom of policies and stuff like that. And we work as a team constantly. We're always available for each other. Our employees like are treated fabulously. And so they're allowed to take that same energy, joy, experience and give it to the customer, right? Other than just typical personal stuff that happens in everybody's life. That starts with Kipp though.
Yeah. And Grant always talks highly of you, by the way.
I'm
all
sure.
the time, every day, 24 hours a day. I'm boss man.
But I mean, just touching on the partnership thing. So, obviously Grant and I consider, he's a partner in this. He's the operator. He's making the things happen. And then down to the installers, you talk about, that's their business. That truck is their business, right? If you're paying them a percentage of the job, they have ownership of that job and they're included in that. And then, so you got the percent pay, then you've got other incentives that you put on top of that so that they feel like it really is, they can take ownership and feel good about whatever it is that they're doing. But yeah, so again, back to the collaboration with Grant, we do have weekly or every other week management meetings. Grant and I do communicate very frequently, but for my wife and his wife, who's on board now, which has been amazing. We all collaborate and get together, and we have a kind of a project-based outline of our meeting, understanding what the next key issues are that are coming up. Where are we meeting our goals? Where are we going with this? So, we very, very clearly define certain things, and then other things we kind of leave open to discussion. That's one of the things I feel like as a servant leader or a servant owner, I guess is a better term for it now, is that, I do have my vision. I do have, what we want, but at the end of the day, we've all got to come together and understand, is this really what we want to be working for? And so questioning things, that's part of our conversation. Like, it's not, this is it, I'm laying the line down, this is it. There are few things that I do that with, but 99% of everything else is, let's all discuss this. Let's figure out what's best. Yeah. So, I don't have all the answers, and I'm not going to dictate to you exactly how things need to be done. I was like, here's the goal. Whatever you need to do to get there, let me know how I can support it. And so that's kind of where I really try to give people the liberty to succeed with whatever it is. Give them the outline, give them the goal of where they need to be. These are your key items to think about, and then you do it however you feel like it. It gives people, it's empowering people to take care of and own their own objectives.
It trickles down. it trickles down too when you do that, Kip. So like that freedom that you give me. And if, he has a question, like, what's that process look like? If I'm asking him for $50,000 for a bulk buy, what's the process? What's the plan? Which direction are you going with this? Is it the right, he just asked. And in turn, it keeps me engaged in remembering the process, because I can have a tendency to just do things off of memory because I've been doing it for so long, right?
Right.
So it helps me be a better leader too, because my guys, when they ask for something or a bunch of new tools or whatever, I'm like, well, what's that process look like? How are we taking care of them? What's the intent with them? Blah, blah, blah. So Kip's really good with like having an open ear and just being curious about the process, because that's
I think that's huge. And anyone listening, you gotta have a takeaway on that, because the guys who don't want to listen to their employees and it's just like it's my way or the highway, those guys are going to quit telling you things. There's going to be something that goes wrong on the truck. They're not going to tell you. And then all of a sudden you have all these problems that just pop up. And had you had that open communication and they're not afraid to open up and tell you what's going on or tell you their thoughts, it's going to cause problems down the road. So if you have that open door policy, that's very, very important. So, I mean, I think it's huge that you guys are doing that. Kipp, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned since taking over Gutter Brothers and
those Gutter Brothers?
No,
brothers that just do gutters.
Yeah, no, I think biggest lesson for me. So in the last 2 years, understanding that perfection is a goal, but it's not an expectation. Maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but like, we want to do everything right. We want to be perfect. We want to, make sure everybody's happy. You want to do all those things, but the reality is it doesn't work that way. Things are going to happen. Mistakes are going to be made. People are going to be people. It's just part of the process. So really learning to not emotionally react to adverse situations is huge, right? So how do you take a step back? So this thing happened. Okay. What's our solution for this current situation? And then what do we do moving forward to try to prevent it from happening? Again, we're not going to prevent 100%, but walk through that process, acknowledge it, fix it, and then what do we implement to try to reduce the likelihood of it happening again? Those are, I knew those things beforehand, but once you actually get into it and have to deal with it, it's your money, it's your baby, it's your retirement savings that you put into everything is on the line. So, you got to remember at the end of the day, make the decisions without clouding your judgment through, some sort of sadness or anger or whatever that is in the moment. Try to take a step back and be more objective into it. So just from a leadership lesson learned, that's been huge for me to actually learn how to implement that and do it the right way. And then, the other one, and then it's not a lesson learned, it's things that but hiring the right people is huge, and we would have been somewhat successful without Grant being here, but I know that we're going to be absolutely to the moon with him here, so that was having him come on board, really putting, fuel on the fire for us to move on. So Grant's there. And then you talk about, we brought on Lisa, his wife, that was huge. You try to make sure, is this the right move? Is it not? And it's like, yes. I mean, you see it now. They collaborate well together. My wife and I work together. And then the other thing you have to remember is, all right, so we have to compartmentalize things. So we've got work life, and then we also we're married and we have a family, we have our outside life. Making sure you remember that is something. So like Grant, we talk about, right? You need to go do a thing. Go take care of your family. Go do this. We got you here for this minute, whenever. But really, understanding the value of the people that work for you, and that at this point, I can't go out and do the revenue I'm doing with me trying to install gutters. It just doesn't work that way. So you got to bring the right people on to execute what you're looking for, and then be open to other ideas. So that's been, kind of a nutshell what I've learned the last 2 years.
As we start to close up on this, what's your vision for the future?
The vision for the future is to continue to grow the business beyond where we are, so that we become the most well-known name in Central Texas and beyond. and not just because of the brands. The brand is amazing, the marketing is amazing, that stuff happens and that's helpful. But do we want to be the top branch in the franchise? We're top 5 right now. Next year, we're shooting for number 1. So that's the vision, is that we want to be there, and then kind of backing off that, right? So how do we do that? Those are the things that Grant and I really enjoy talking about, the different ways you can get there. Yeah, you can buy more trucks, you can raise your prices, you can do different things, but that's the fun part. It's the strategizing with Grant. But yeah, so that's, just flat out, we want to be number 1 in the country and within the franchise. But we also, the other side of it is, we want to be respected within the gutter industry. Coming in with a franchise, not having a gutter background. I know that there's some folks that kind of look at that like, what are you doing? But if I can have a company that is putting up the best quality, the best service, best everything, then, at the end of the day, it's like, we're part of the industry too, and we're respected, and people, can look at us and go, oh, yeah, you're a franchise, but you're one of the best gutter companies in Texas. So.
Yeah, you took the fast route on just, I like franchise models. I didn't take that route, but it speeds things up. You got all the processes. I think it makes learning faster. So it just sped up learning the gutter business for you. And now you've learned it and you're growing. So you'll be able to take it to the next level and be high level. So I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So
but I do want to just finish this on the love story for Grant, that a lot of this, our vision is, part of Grant being a part of this and putting us at that place. So, I really have a lot of respect and really appreciate Grant being a part of this. And when we had our call, he took a chance on me. Took a chance on him, and it's worked out really, really well. So
appreciate you guys coming today. Is there anything you want to recap on?
No. No, this was cool. It's always good to continue to learn more about Kipp. I don't think I knew anything about the newspaper stuff. I think he had told me his dad was doing the newspapers, but I think this is the power of communication, right? This is just another way of communicating, and we're doing it, in the public. So that's actually something that I learned. And then just to touch real quick as a takeaway about how we treat our employees, one thing I could say about that for you guys that are going to have meetings or huddles or things like that is have a direction with those meetings. I've just started having people, and going to continue to do it, have people underneath me start running the meetings. No one wants to hear me talking for 3 years. It's almost been a year. It's enough. As well as making sure those meetings are enjoyable. They're not just scolding sessions about what you're doing wrong. You've got to celebrate wins. That's got to be the biggest portion. Build up before you break down. So
good advice.
Yeah. But we're coming for it. We're coming for the throne.
I think you're going to get there. I see it.
We'll get it.
So I appreciate you guys. And I think everyone's going to get some value out of this, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having us on.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
All right. See you, Kipp.
Later, guys.